Imagine taking your father's place. But every day you sit on his remains, a chair made from his skin, a punishment, a warning, and a reminder that justice has consequences. This is not myth. This is the story of a man who was forced to judge from the flayed skin of his own father. If you're drawn to history's darkest echoes and forgotten truths, join us. There are still countless stories buried beneath time that deserve to be told. Now, let's begin. It is the 6th century BCE. In the vast empire built by Cyrus the Great, the law was sacred. Justice was more than a principle. It was the thread that held the empire together from the deserts of Egypt to the icy plains of Scythia. Under the rule of Cambyses II, son of Cyrus, the Persian Empire stretched wider than any before it. Grand, powerful, and yet deeply fragile. Because beneath every empire lies a silent enemy, corruption. And in this story, corruption had a name, Sisamnes. Sisamnes was not an ordinary man. He was a judge, a guardian of Persian law. Men traveled weeks to stand before him. They came with disputes, claims, and accusations, confident that justice would be served beneath the shadow of Achaemenid authority. He was educated, confident, respected. He understood the power of judgment and the burden that came with it. But power is a dangerous companion, and temptation even worse. Herodotus, the Greek historian, writes that Sisamnes was entrusted with cases of political and economic weight. His decisions shaped lives, livelihoods, and reputations. But somewhere along the way, the silver coins of a bribe glimmered brighter than the truth. He accepted payment and delivered an unjust verdict. No one knows the details of the case. The names are lost to time. But the act itself was enough to alter history. When word reached Cambyses II, the king did not hesitate. Cambyses was a ruler known for two extremes, his father's vision and his own volatility. Historians describe him as ambitious, iron-fisted, and deeply protective of imperial integrity. Even the faintest stain on the justice system was an insult he would not tolerate. When corruption touched the courts, he responded with brutal clarity. Sisamnes was seized, dragged from his seat of power to a place where justice would be rewritten in blood. What happened next is among the most horrifying punishments ever recorded. Cambyses decreed that Sisamnes be flayed alive, his skin peeled from his body while he still breathed. Let that image sink in. Not beheaded, not imprisoned, flayed piece by piece, strips of skin torn from muscle, blood pooling beneath him, a punishment so horrifying that even in ancient Persia it was remembered for generations. The executioners worked slowly, methodically. When Sisamnes finally died, his skin was not buried, it was preserved. And then, it was nailed and stretched over his judge's chair, a grotesque reminder that justice was not to be sold. Herodotus repeats this detail with chilling clarity. But the story does not end with the father. Sisamnes had a son, Otanes. He was young, with his future ahead of him, but now he stood before the king, shaken not only by his father's fate, but by what was to come. Cambyses looked at him and declared, "You will take your father's place." A new judge, but bound to the memory of the old. Otanes was forced to sit on that same chair, covered in his father's flayed skin. Every judgment he passed was made from a seat of suffering. Every decision weighed against the echoes of his father's corruption. Imagine the terror. Entering the courtroom, everyone seeing what he sat on, knowing the story. He could not escape it. The message was clear. Justice is sacred. Break it, and you will become the warning. This was not simply punishment. It was propaganda, a symbol designed to terrify anyone in power who might consider selling the truth. The question has haunted scholars for centuries. Why did Cambyses choose such a punishment? The answer lies in the Persian worldview. The empire depended on order, trade, administration, military campaigns, all relied on courts that were incorruptible. If justice failed, the empire would collapse from within. Cambyses' brutality was not random, it was strategic. A message to every judge: do your duty faithfully, or your skin may decorate your chair. Herodotus's account is the primary historical source. The story endured so powerfully that nearly 2,000 years later, the Flemish painter Gerard David depicted it in his 1498 diptych, The Judgment of Cambyses. The painting hung in European council chambers as a reminder to judges not to betray their oath. Even in the Renaissance, the message still echoed: justice must remain pure. This was more than Persian history, it became a universal warning. Sisamnes represents the fall of a man who traded truth for wealth. Otanes represents the burden of legacy, forced to sit upon the consequences of another's sins. And Cambyses, the power of a ruler willing to reshape society through terror. In some retellings, Otanes became a fair and respected judge, a man whose judgments were guided by fear and memory. Whether this redemption is truth or myth, no one can say. But the chair remained, a reminder, a warning, a lesson. Now on to you. Was Cambyses a tyrant who ruled through brutality, or a visionary who understood that justice must be protected at any cost? What would our own world look like if corruption carried a punishment so severe that even the innocent trembled to witness it? Don't forget, history is filled with stories like this, dark, tragic, and unforgettable. If you'd like to journey deeper into the shadows of the past, follow, subscribe, and join us again, because somewhere in history, another story waits. Until then, remember, justice, once sold, costs more than anyone is willing to pay.